Homeostasis and response. Again, there's 6 sections around the outside of it, however each one has got a fair bit of information to do with it. Starting off with homeostasis itself, right, what you need to have is you need to have a definition. Right, and what that really is, it's regulation of the internal conditions. Right, it's keeping everything the same. Stasis means kind of keep everything the same. The 3 main ones that you need to know about are glucose, which is your sugars, your temperature, and your water content. Right, now it's going to vary depending on what level of exam that you're doing. The required practical. This one is your reaction time. That is then where you'll sit in a room, right, with a wooden ruler, and then your partner will then drop the wooden ruler, and you've then got to catch it in between your thumb and finger. You need to know the method, you need to kind of know the details, right, because control is quite a lot, where you've got to make sure that you're keeping the actual fingers exactly the same distance apart, and you have a rest in between, which might seem silly, but then that's all kind of part of it. The menstrual cycle, right, 28 days, you need to know the hormones that are involved. Luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen, and progesterone. And you need to know kind of how they all link in with each other, about what each individual one does. In addition to that, you also need to know about IVF, in vitro fertilization, about what happens and about what the process is. The nervous system. Okay, now the nervous system is quite big, right? You need to know about the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system is fundamentally your brain and your spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system is then all the other nerves around the outside. You need to know what the reflex arc is, right? And you need to know it right from a bee stinging your finger all the way to the effector causing movement. And in the reflex arc, you also need to know what a synapse is. You need to know where the synapses are and what a synapse does. You've also got voluntary responses and involuntary responses. So voluntary is ones that you want to do. Involuntary is then ones that you're kind of not controlling. Endocrine system. A good big question on your exam is compare the nervous system and the endocrine system. Now the endocrine system is basically a series of hormones that are produced from glands. And what the glands do is the glands produce these hormones. These hormones go into your blood system and they travel around your body. Right? So one of the key things is the endocrine system is considerably slower than the nervous system, because the nervous system is an electrical impulse, where the endocrine system is a hormone in your blood. You need to know a few glands, but the big one is the pituitary gland, which is like the master gland. And that feeds in a lot into the menstrual cycle. 2 others, right? You've got the adrenal gland, which produces adrenaline, which is the fight or flight. And you need to look into what effects does adrenaline have. Increases your heart rate, right? Effects like that. And the other one is the thyroid gland, that produces thyroxine. Alright? And the thyroid gland is the one that controls metabolism, which is then in your neck. Alright? So you need to know details of what thyroxine are. Now they're not the only 2 hormones that there could be, right? But what they are is they're key hormones. Blood glucose, right? Again, this tends to only be higher, right? However, right, you never know. So this is then all to do with controlling the amount of glucose that's in your body. And what they'll tend to do is they'll tend to talk about if there's an issue. And the issue tends to be diabetes. You've got type 1 and you've got type 2. Type 1 is the one that people are born with. Right? Type 2 is then the one that you kind of happens to you later in life due to your sort of health and circumstances. The hormones that are involved are insulin, which is usually on the foundation paper, and then we've got glucagon, which tends to be on the higher syllabus.